Well, we're in it, right? You're feeling it. I'm feeling it. Our friends are feeling it. The people around us are feeling it. We've got a lot of really potent, powerful astrological configurations that are happening. And we also have a lot of energy that's coming from the sun. And here in the United States, we have a major election that's going to happen next week. And so there's just really a lot going on. And so follow along with me to see the specifics that are happening in the human design system. I'm going to talk a little bit about astrology. I will recommend certain astrologers that you can go and check out their material because they go much more in depth about the astrology of what's happening now. And we've got some great stuff coming up. So let's go ahead and dive in. Here are the sun and earth gates that are being activated during the month of November. And you can see them here on the body graph, which is the image that we're used to seeing, and then also in the mandala. And I like to share the mandala with you, and I'm going to share it a little bit more with you because it does help you understand some of the astrology better also. And so we've always got the sun and earth opposite each other in the human design mandala. And so you can see in this image where they're across from each other in the of that image. Right? Because the sun and the earth are moving around counterclockwise around the mandala. Here are all of the sun and the earth transits for the month of November. And we start on October 31st and go all the way through the beginning of December. And if you want to, you can go ahead and just screenshot that so that you can use that as a reference as you go through the month. So I want to start by just talking about the big thing that's happening here at the beginning of the month, because it's a really big thing. So we have a new moon in Scorpio that is happening on November 1st. So it's happening on Friday. It's happening in the morning here, Pacific time. And let's remember that for every new moon, the sun and the moon are together. They're right next to each other, which is why it's a new moon. We can't see it because the moon is invisible inside of the brightness of the sun. And these are happening in the gate 44. So the gate 44 is the energy for understanding the past and being able to tell the truth about the past. It is an energy that helps liberate us from the ways that we've maybe been carrying around really burdensome stories of the past. A lot of times, young people will blame themselves for things that are happening in their world, not realizing that they're just a child and the adults in their lives are running around doing adult things and having adult challenges. But many times when we're young, we think that the challenges that our adults are having are due to us. So in our personal lives, this is a great time for us to be reviewing our own history and to be telling the truth about it, just bringing ourselves up to date. So that's a great exercise that you can do. And you can, because it's a new moon, it's a really good time for you to be planting seeds as well, right? Is that you're setting your intentions for this upcoming lunation. And so you can be doing that as well. And I would encourage you to really be looking at, how can you at the deepest level, the most profound and the most significant places, liberate yourself from your past. All of the energy that is moving through our planet right now is about liberating ourselves from the past. And the sun and the moon being in that gate 44 is blinking that loud and clear. You'll also see that gate 44 is in a channel to the gate 26, which is on the will center. So the will center is over here on the left-hand side of the body. The spleen is over here on the right-hand side of the body. And they're not actually as far apart as it looks like they are because our bodies aren't that wide, but they have this channel that is going here. So it is the 4426. So this channel is known as the channel of surrender in traditional human design and the channel of alignment in quantum human design. And what I want to focus on here is that Venus is lighting up that gate 26. And we'll come back to this a little bit later because I want to talk a little bit more about Venus's journey. But Venus is lighting up the gate of integrity. And in human design, we consider Venus to be values. So Venus is lighting up this gate 26 and saying, where are our values? Are we in integrity with our own values? Or are we out of integrity with our values? That's how we can get out of alignment. And then we need to get back into alignment, right? So we're looking at, are we in alignment with our values, and are we telling the truth about the past? That's what that channel is really lighting up and saying, how can we get ourselves really into alignment with the truth and with our own integrity based on our own values? So this is pretty supercharged in the human design system as well as in the astrological system. So that's the basics of what's going on with this new moon. It's a new moon in Scorpio. Scorpio is like the depths, right? Scorpio is all about being able to go into the depths. Scorpio is ruled by Pluto. Scorpio, it helps us to really go into the underworld, go into the subconscious, helps us release things out of that area of our psyche so that we can be more free, right? And Pluto is always about helping us to face whatever it is we need to face, deal with whatever it is that we're ignoring so that we can, again, be more free, because Pluto ultimately is a liberator, right? But sometimes we have to really go down in order to get out. So we've got this going on with this Scorpio new moon. Now, one of the things that I just want to note here and show you what it looks like in the human design system, because this is a big deal in the astrological world, which is that Pluto and Mars are in opposition to each other. So in the astrological world, oppositions are a very powerful and potentially conflictual alignment. And so we've got Pluto opposite in Mars. Pluto is in gate 60 in the human design system, and it's at the 29th degree of Capricorn. And then Mars is in the gate 56 and is in Cancer, also at the 29th degree. So they're both at that 29th degree, which some astrologers say can be kind of gnarly. Others are like, it's really shamanic. So I guess we'll get to find out. But the point here is that Mars historically is known as the god of war, right? He's really like, he's that rules Aries. I'm an Aries sun, so I know Mars really well. I've had to do my dance with Mars. I've had to learn how to work with that really powerful energy. He definitely can be the god of war. Also, Mars in the human design system is sometimes seen as like a kind of our immature acting out, which I would call the disempowered expression, or in human design, usually we call that the lower expression. But Mars can also be the spiritual warrior. Mars can give you that agency that you need to create change, because Mars is an action taker, right? He's got the sword in his hand and he's like, I'm going for it. So he's absolutely an action taker and he gets things started. So here we've got Mars in Cancer, which is all about caring for each other and compassion. and so Mars is kind of like learning perhaps how to be more compassionate in his journey through Cancer. And then we've got Pluto, which we've been talking about for months, right? Pluto is at that last degree of Capricorn. Pluto's finally going to move all the way into Aquarius, and we'll come back to that in a second, right? But they're opposing each other. And Pluto is like the higher expression of Mars, and an octave above is what some of the astrologers call it, right? Like a more mature version. And so Pluto is helping Mars to evolve, potentially, as long as they don't come to loggerheads and start fighting each other, which is also a potential. So for you in your life, I'm going to be looking at my Mars, right? Because Mars is my ruling planet. But you can look at Mars for yourself and see, where is your inner fighter, right? Have you been falling into that conflict energy, which is unfortunately getting bigger and bigger on the planet right now? Are you falling into the conflict energy? Or are you saying, you know what? I am not going to get into the fight. I am going to be the spiritual warrior, so that you can stand up for what matters to you, what you care about, right? But not to do it in a way that you actually get into a fight or create real conflict or violence. And that's the thing that we're evolving with right now. Because of course we're different. We're not all going to agree about things. We're not all going to want things to go the same way. That's normal, right? We want diversity. But how can we evolve out of using violence to try to get our own way, right? Which to me is a pretty adolescent way of being. And so we're evolving out of that. The other piece is that Mars is lighting up the gate 56. The gate 56 is a storytelling gate, and it is a storytelling gate. It's known as the divine storyteller in quantum human design. And it's really helping us to take a look at the stories that we're telling ourselves. And so Mars is lighting this up, right? Are we telling stories about how conflict is the only way for us to get what we want? Are we telling stories about how we have to fight and we have to defeat and we have to beat down our enemies, right? Is that the story that we're telling? Or are we telling a story about how we made it through and found a way to actually listen to each other and work things out with each other rather than fighting each other? So these are some of the themes that this opposition is bringing up for us. Like I said, I'll put some of the astrologers down in the description. So if you want to dig into this more, there's lots and lots of people talking about it because it's a big one, right? And this is also happening right before the election here in the United States. This opposition is exact, I believe, on November 3rd. And we're going to be living with this for a few months now because it's going to be coming into exact and then moving away. The planets are kind of be doing this, right? And when I do that, I feel like energy is really building. So this is not something that's, one and done. It's like here and then gone. It's actually, we're going to be living with this through April of next year. So it's good to be aware of what this influence is for you and how you can really work it for yourself, for your own benefit, rather than feeling like you're at the mercy of it. The other thing I just want to note here is that November 1st is Samhain, which is the New Year in the Celtic tradition. It's also known as the Witches' New Year sometimes because those of us who have followed earth-based spirituality, sometimes we're called witches or we called ourselves witches. I don't mind being called a witch or calling myself a witch, but I don't think that that's actually accurate in the sense that this is earth-based spirituality through, all throughout old Europe. And so it was the recognition that we've come to the end of the harvest time. Things are, really dying away and that we're at this place, here winter begins in this earth-based spirituality here with Samhain. This is when winter begins and it's when the new year begins. And so, it's also when the veils through between the dimensions are thinner. And so it's also about honoring our ancestors. And, Halloween is a permutation of this. Unfortunately, it's become very commercialized, but it has really deep roots in our ability to honor our ancestors, know what our ancestral legacy is. And so we can see here with this new moon in the gate 44, which is all about telling the truth of the past, and we're honoring our ancestors, we're honoring our history. We want to be in alignment. We want to be in integrity. So this is a really, really potent time for us to be looking at our ancestry and telling the truth about our ancestry and our relationship and our legacy. And this is a really potent time when many of us are breaking aspects of our ancestral legacy because we don't want to carry them on into the new world. We recognize that we are coming out of a really challenging time, and there's aspects of the way that we were brought up, our ancestry, we don't want to carry forward. There's other parts that we love and honor and absolutely want to continue carrying forward. But this is a time of discernment where we let what no longer serves us, what is not in our highest good, fall away so that we can make room for the new, but then also have plenty of energy for nurturing that which we do want to hold on to, that we've already been cultivating, that we want to carry forward with us as we move forward into the new world. So this month, for the outer planets, we really have kind of two things that are happening, one of which is major and one is not as important. So Jupiter is still in the gate 45. I talked about this a lot last month. You can go and check out last month's major themes. I even pulled out the part about Jupiter in the gate 45 and what that was about. Now, Saturn is slowing down and is going to station on the 15th and move direct on the 15th. So right now, here at the beginning of the month, Saturn is really slowing down. He's going to stay in that gate 63, but he's really slowing down. And the energy for any planet gets stronger when it's slowing down and stationing like that, and then about to turn retrograde or about to turn direct. So Saturn is getting even stronger, and Saturn is lighting up the beginning of the logic circuit, and it is the gate of doubt in traditional human design, or the gate of curiosity in quantum human design. And I think Saturn is really saying, hey, are we living in doubt, or are we living in curiosity? I'm a big advocate of curiosity myself, because curiosity opens things, whereas doubt, closes down things. And so we're in a time where we're really needing to open things out. And so my invitation for you, and I think what Saturn is saying is, how are you really fueling your curiosity right now? Or are you falling into doubt? Like, watch out, because doubt is it's based in fear, generally speaking. And so we don't really want to be creating out of fear. And Saturn's not a big advocate for fear. Really wants you to be incrementally working on opening yourself out to possibility, and curiosity is a great ally for that. So then the big thing that's happening in the outer planets is, you probably know, is Pluto on the 19th of November. It's going to move fully into Aquarius for the next 20 years. Welcome to the age of Aquarius. We've been looking forward to this, really for the last, 50, 60 years, when, I was around when the song about Aquarius came out. And so we've been kind of looking forward to this, and here we are. And this is not going to happen again in our lifetimes, not for another 248 years. And so what does it mean that Pluto is moving into Aquarius? Well, Pluto's been in Capricorn for the last 20 years. And when Pluto first moved into Capricorn, actually it's 16 years, because it was 2008. And that's actually when we had the financial crash, right? Oops. And we've also seen a lot of pretty top-down, heavy-duty, governmental, large organization wanting to control situations, whether that's financial, whether it's governmental, whether it's, more companies and economic, whatever it might be. And so Capricorn is kind of known in the astrological world as being, top-down structures. You can see what Capricorn feels like for you, but we're definitely looking at the breakdown of the old order, because Capricorn is also seen as kind of the holder of the old order. Whereas Aquarius and Aquarian energy is much more about liberation. It's much more about freedom. It's much more about the individual and smaller communities having more say. And this really fits with what we know is already happening, and we know needs to happen, which is an increasing decentralization of our world. We've really built up to having a global society and a global marketplace. And some of that, I think, is going to be sustainable. We're going to be able to continue to have that, but some of it isn't, because we're just using up too many resources doing that. So we're going to be in a time where we're going to have to be sorting through, what are the things that we want to keep with us, and what are the things that we're willing to let go? And so with Pluto being in the gate 60 in the human design system, the gate 60 is all about that process of, what are we keeping? What are we letting go of? What are the mutations that are beneficial, that we want to fuel, we want to have grow larger? And what of the old do we want to let go? Or just the things that don't work anymore, right? So we're on the cusp, no matter where you look, right? We've got, Pluto, just saying this to us. And really, my personal experience is that Pluto's been doing a lot in my own subconscious. We tend to think of Pluto as a big, kind of, generational energy, which it absolutely is. But Pluto is also working each one of us. And so I feel like there's been a lot that I've been able to be releasing from my subconscious, because Pluto's been in there, right? And then I'm really looking forward to how we can work with Pluto, with that Phoenix energy, to have the renewal come, right? Rising from the ashes of the old, and we have this renewal and this rebirth that's happening. And of course, we're in Scorpio, right? Which is all about renewal and rebirth as well. And so a lot of these things are lining up here. And I want to let you know that I'm going to be doing a 5-day Aquarian Activation and Initiation that's happening later in November. And I want to invite you to participate. It's going to be free to come. And this is a celebration for us about Pluto moving into Aquarius. And then also just for each one of us to be looking at, okay, as I'm moving into this next phase of my life, as I'm moving into really kind of a whole new vista of possibility. How can I fit with that, right? What is that going to mean for me? And one of the really positive things that we have is that we have this alignment. Again, go to the astrologers for the deep dive on this, but I wanted to show you the image of Pluto trining Uranus and then Pluto and a sextile to Neptune. And so you can see what it looks like here on the human design chart. When you look at it in a astrology chart, it's a little bit different because you actually draw the relationships. But this is known as a very harmonious, very auspicious type of relationship, and we're going to have it coming and going in different amounts until 2028. So we're going to have it for a while. And this was also a similar kind of configuration that was happening in the 1960s. And so that was the birth of so many of the movements for social justice, for consciousness raising, for being able to create a new reality that were happening at that time. And so this auspicious configuration is going to be bringing us some of that energy as well. I'm really excited about that. Then before we move on to some of the other specifics in the transits, I want to note that we have a Mercury retrograde that's coming up starting on November 26th, going through December 15th. And it's really a cycle that that's going to begin November 7th, and I'll go all the way through the early part of January. Because when a planet retrogrades, right, it's going to start in the gate 8 and it's gate 9, and it's going to move forward all the way to the gate 11, and then it's going to start to go back. Right. And so the time that it spends on these gates, it actually goes over them 3 times. And so we want to be paying attention to that. You know, Mercury is really like, here, look here, look here, look here. And I've noted what those particular gates are on the mandala, and you can go and see which of those gates might be activated for you or not, and to be checking out what is it that Mercury wants you to be paying attention to. Yeah. And, you know, Mercury retrograde gets a bad rap, you know, like everything goes haywire and technology is bad and our communication goes sideways and all of that. And there is some of that, or there's potential for that, but it doesn't have to go that way. It can go a different way. So one of the things that you can do is just be looking at your communication and making sure that your communication is clear. My experience is there's been a lot of unclear communication, even when Mercury is not retrograde. And so that creates a lot of challenge for us when we're trying to. I just had a communication with somebody where I was like, what are you talking about? I cannot figure out what you're talking about. Right. And eventually we got to it, but it's a little bit challenging these days. So I would just say to you, just try to have patience, try to have compassion, try to have mercy. If you feel like somebody is communicating in a way that you don't understand, or they're not getting back to you, or they're talking to you about something you didn't bring up and not answering the question you had, right? All of those kind of things can happen where Mercury is retrograde. But it doesn't have to if we're just slowing down enough to pay attention to make sure that our own communication is going really well. And we slow down enough to be able to hear what other people are saying and sort it out well enough. Okay, so that's what's happening with Mercury retrograde. We'll visit that a little bit more when we get later into the month. Then I wanted to show you, we did this last month as well, because we really have quite a few different channels that are being lit up. Now, I will say here that I don't name the channels that the moon creates, because the moon is only in a gate for a matter of hours. You know, the moon moves through more than one, either 2 or 3 different gates over the course of a 24-hour cycle. So I don't generally note when there's a channel that's made with the moon, just so you know that. So all of these that you're seeing here are all made by planets and the sun. And so we have 5 different channels that are being made this month. And we're going to go through them. We already took a look at one of them, and just to see how these are enlivening us. Some of them are actually in the sun and earth position. Some of them, Venus is kind of coming in and out here. So that's part of what we'll be taking a look at. All right. So we already looked at the 4426, right? Which is where, what's happening with the moon and the sun in the gate 44. And then we've got Venus in the gate 26. And Venus, interestingly enough, is taking a little journey through these different gates that are actually meeting up with other planets and creating different channels. So then starting on November 5th, we have the sun is going to move into the gate 1, and Uranus is already in the gate 8. So Uranus has been in the gate 8 and is going to be there through the beginning of next month. And Uranus is really lighting up this gate of contribution. What are we giving into the world, right? It's called contribution in traditional human design, and it's called fulfillment in quantum human design, because it is about how we can become fulfilled through our contributions. Because a lot of times people contribute not necessarily in ways that really make them happy. And so what we want to be looking at in Uranus is, like an awakener and a disruptor. And it's kind of going, hey, if you're not happy doing what you're doing, you might want to look at doing something else, right? If what you're doing to contribute to, out into the world isn't fully in alignment with what is going to make you feel really satisfied in your life, then, maybe take a look at another way of contributing. And this is a great time to be doing it because there's a lot of change that's happening. So we'll talk about this more when we get to the transit where the sun is in the 1. But just to say, this channel right here, it's a beautiful channel because it's connecting the G center to the throat. Right. And it's enabling us to express ourselves, because the G center is like our identity center. It's the center for love and lovability and our identity and our direction in life. So when we have this particular channel lit up, we're able to express our identity more. We're able to express our direction in life, and we're able to do it from a really loving place and loving ourselves, loving others. Sometimes it can feel really vulnerable because we are expressing from our own hearts. And so that's something that we want to, just be aware of, but that it is really important for us to be able to be expressing from that heart space. And you're going to have a lot of energetic support to do this while it's happening. Okay. Then we also have the 1156 that is being lit up from the 6th of November to the 10th of November. Now Mars is in that gate 56 and he's there for a longer period of time, but Venus is just there for a little bit. So she's moving from that gate 26 right into the gate 11. And then we have over here on the left-hand side of the body, right-hand side of the chart, is we've got that 1156 happening, okay? And Venus, again, is our values in human design. I always like to think of Venus as our divine feminine energy also, whatever that might mean to you. And the gate 11 is the gate of ideas. And so Venus is lighting this up, and we're looking at what ideas are we giving our energy to? Are the ideas that we're giving our energy to, are they in alignment with our values? And then what stories are we telling about them, right? Because Mars is in this storytelling gate, as I mentioned a little while earlier, right? So Mars is in this storytelling gate. Venus catches up with him into the gate 11, and then they have this configuration, right? And so we kind of have the divine masculine, divine feminine going on here, right? And so we want to have them be in right relationship with each other and supporting each other and recognizing what each of them brings and honoring what each of them brings. And so Venus is here with the ideas, and then Mars is telling the story. So for you to be looking at this for yourself and asking yourself, right, what stories am I telling about myself? And am I falling into that kind of, God of war energy? Or can I allow in the divine feminine also and allow some ideas that are coming from that Venus energy to infuse and illuminate the energy of that gate 56 with Mars lighting it up? Then a little bit later in November, we're going to have the channel 1858 that's being lit up again by Venus. So Venus has moved on to the gate 58. And the gate 58 is a beautiful energy. It's the energy of joy, and especially joy for doing what it is we're here to do. It's known as the joy of mastery in quantum human design. So Venus here is, come out of the gate ideas, which is very kind of cerebral. And now she's down here in the root with the joy of mastery, right? And she's connecting with the South Node, which is in the gate 18. And the South Node has been in the gate 18 forever. It's going to be there through, I think, mid-December, kind of early-ish mid-December. We'll come back to that when we get there. So this is happening from the 15th to the 19th of November. And this channel, the 18 can be a little, because it's the gate of correction or the gate of realignment. So again, we've got alignment as a theme, right? And the thing is when we bring the pattern into alignment, right? Which is what that 18 wants to do, then we get to experience the joy. So everywhere we look this month, we're seeing, okay, are we in alignment or aren't we in alignment? And here we are. This is the setup for Pluto moving all the way into Aquarius at the same time, right? So if we're doing our work, if we're bringing things into alignment, if we are seeing where the pattern's been off and it comes in, we can have this joy that will light us up. But when these different constellations are mapping over each other. So this is a really potent time. You can see we've got all these different centers lit up, all these different channels. And one of the things that you can do is pull out your own human design chart and take a look at what centers are being lit up for you that you don't usually have, what channels are being lit up, what gates are being lit up that are not normally lit up for you. I mean, this is always the case with gates with the transit reports. But last month and this month, we have a lot of centers and a lot of channels as well. So that is kind of extra supercharged, and it can really support you when you are taking a look at what's going to be lit up specifically for you during this month. So I want to just end our major themes by talking about the transit that starts on Halloween on Thursday, the 31st. And we already talked a little bit about the sun in the gate 44. And we can talk about the earth in the gate 24. And I wanted to dig into this a little bit more to give us a little bit more of the context for where that new moon is coming in. So the sun, like I said, the gate 44, what are we shining out into the world? What is the truth? That is such a big thing these days, is it not? Like, we're just kind of going, wow, how do I know what's true? People are saying so many different things with each other. And one of the themes that I've been hearing from the astrologers again, and I think this is something that resonates for me because I experienced it in my own life, but which is that we just have really different timelines going on and people living in very different versions of the truth. And a lot of times versions of the truth that do not align with each other. So I think one of the invitations for us during this time, again, if we kind of go back to these major themes, is not so much necessarily to stand in our own truth and say everybody else is wrong, right? Which is kind of seductive, right? But just to be like, wow, what is truth? And how, if that's the truth that these other people are living inside of, what's that like for them? Can we build any empathy or any understanding or any compassion for people who are living inside a really different truth than we are? Now, it doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to want to support what their behavior is or what they're doing in the world, right? Because we do want to stand in what we believe in, put that stake in the ground, right, for what we believe in and advocate for that. But we do well to not fall into that conflictual energy where we want to say my truth is truer than yours, which unfortunately can happen, right? So the sun in the gate 44 is resting on the earth in the gate 24. So the gate 24 is in the ajna. It's in the knowing circuit. It's right here, connects to the gate 61. And it's known as rationalization and traditional human design, or blessings and quantum human design. It's a beautiful energy. It's really about our ability to be receiving breakthrough possibilities and potentials from that knowing circuit, because it's really receiving right there. So the earth is inviting us to be receiving new ways of thinking about things, right? So here we are working with truth, but we're also like open to new possibilities. We're open to new perspectives. We're open to new potentials, right? That's what the earth is saying. The earth is saying, stay open. Let your intuition bring you some new ways of seeing things, right? Let your connection with that creative intelligence of the universe be open so that you can be receiving potentially something that's quite different than what you've really thought about before, how you behaved before, of how you've even seen reality before, because that's part of what's going on. Is there's a lot of churning up about how we think reality works. And so the earth is saying, hey, just be open to it. Just ground yourself in it. Doesn't mean you have to pick it up and run with it immediately, but it is a place for you to get to ground yourself. So I think if we can do this going into this new moon that starts just the next day, right? And this opposition between Pluto and Mars that's happening just a couple days later, that we'll be able to really kind of ground ourselves in, and let's just hold it that we're going to be happily surprised, or we're going to have new things that come that help open up our perspective. You probably know by now I'm a bit of a disruptor myself. And so I like things that help break up things that we've just taken for granted or always thought was true or just the way things are. I don't think things really are just the way things are. I think that we've created our perspectives a lot, and that we're in an extremely dynamic time, and that we're really blessed at this point to be able to be moving out of a lot of the ways of being that we've lived with for thousands of years under patriarchy, under this kind of hierarchical top down. And just let me say, patriarchy is really hard on men too. It's not really good for anybody, and scripted men into military, having to fight wars for thousands of years, usually for, royalty that they didn't really get a lot of benefit from, right? So it's not a good system, in my view. And so we're moving into this more Aquarian age, which is going to be more horizontal and not as vertical. When smaller communities, people are going to find each other more in the smaller communities. And we're going to be looking at how are we revitalizing our local communities and how can we do that? And also the power of the individual, the power of our own sovereignty. We're stepping into a new stage of our sovereignty. And as we do that, we want to do it on a new foundation. And so I know it can be really challenging right now when it feels like some of the things maybe that you've relied on are shaky, right? But know that we have the energetic support that we need, the cosmic support that we need to actually be focusing more on what we're creating, what we're bringing in, what we value, right? And so I encourage you to focus on that. And that's what we'll be working with in the Aquarian Activation and Initiation. That's going to be happening November, I think it's the 18th to the 22nd. It's that week. And you'll be hearing more about it. And you can register for it in there. The link is going to be at the end of the video, and it'll be down below. It's a free of charge for you. We will be talking about what you could do after that if you want to continue on. But this is really a celebration for us of what we're moving into, and also really a call for us to be stepping into kind of putting on our big girl pants and big boy pants and being like, okay, what's my role as we move into this new age? How am I contributing to that, right? Uranus, what's your contribution, right? How am I contributing to that? How can I be a part of this in a way that works for me so that I can feel really, really satisfied? So we'll be diving into that. And I hope that you'll join us because I would love to meet you there. Okay. Many blessings. Much love. Bye for now.